this flyer to promote this show because I'm going to provoke thought. If you don't like thought-provoking commentary or conversation, then I'm not your guy. I'm just not your guy. You know, that's just what it is. You know, I'm just not your guy. I'm not going to go with the status quo. I never have. Listen, let me tell y'all something. I'm going to break this down as the people come in. I've never went with the status quo. I never have, and I don't intend to. You know, I provoke thought, and I'm going to make sure that people will be able to So the point of the matter is that I'm going to provoke thought. That's just what I'm going to do. He gives us this concept, right, that many people don't want to really wrap their mind around. You know what I'm saying? Many people don't want to wrap their mind around like the concept that the prophet in Noble Ali is talking about Jesus. And he said, for all those love Jesus. And then he used the concept of Allah. But then he goes a step further and say, Father Allah, which in Eastern Islamic thought, that would be considered shirk. That would be considered making partners with Allah. But the prophet is so bold that he goes on and he said, the great God Allah, Father God Allah, Father Allah. He expresses about Jesus. He even talks about Jesus in India. He goes further and talks about Jesus in Africa. He goes a step further, talks about Buddha, and even represent Confucius. So this is a bold prophet. This prophet thinks outside the box. See, this is not your regular everyday prophet. See, most prophets of the past, they kept the tradition of talking about the matriarchs or the patriarchs of their genealogy or ancestry. You see, but now Prophet Noble Ali not only talk about the patriarchs and the matriarchs of his ancestry, but he also talked about those extended family members like Buddha in India, those extended family members like Confucius in China. You see, so he went a step further. But what we're going to talk about today, now this is a lesson. You know, every Moorish American should be sharing this with another Moorish American. Every Moorish American should be sharing this with another Moorish American. Because we're about to get some work done. We're about to teach in such a way that it's going to be, as Jesus said, you can't put old wines in new skins, for they burst. See, a lot of people like to get caught up with 20-year-old research. I update my research daily because I am a Grand Sheik and I want to make sure that anybody that's under my tutelage will be as sharp as not, or if not sharper than me. Because when I slip, I need somebody sharp to lift me up. When I am not on my square, I need someone as twice as sharp to lift me up. And so I study extra hard and I teach even harder. So if it comes a time when I'm off my square, those who I've taught can lift me up. And so this is not new revelation to anybody within the construct of the Noble Temples. Now, this may be new revelation to you, but this is not new revelation to anybody in the Noble Temples. You see, because we teach, each one teach one. But let's get into the lesson. And I want to take a poll right now. Everybody thumbs up. Every Moorish American should share this with a Moorish American. And there should be a thumbs up. You know, there should be a thumbs up. And also, I'm going to sit in here that if anybody wants to make a contribution for the research that I've done, for the work of serving is worthy of their hire, in regards to the noble temples, as well as the building of the Moorish village. We accept it all through the Cash App. We appreciate you. But if you don't, that's fine too. So I'm going to just put the Cash App link in here just in case anybody want to donate as it relates to our Prophet Noble Ali says, a servant is worthy of his hire, because I'm about to show you some research. But now, how many people think, you know what I'm saying? How many people think? Press 1 if you think Moorish Americans of the Moorish Science Temple of America is obligated to fast during the month of Ramadan. Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. I want to just take a poll real quick. How many people think that Moorish Americans, Moorish American Muslims, under the leadership of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Prophet Noble Ali, 1 if you think they're obligated, 2 if you think they're not. And this, I want to take a poll before I start. And it's going to be very brief and it's going to be very quick, because I'm going to tell you something. We got 2s in here now. I think all of those that was in contention with me are not in the chat. And I don't understand where they at. I don't understand where they at, because I want them to come in, because they was in contention. They were in contention, brothers and sisters, and y'all should be a part of the noble temples. But because you haven't sent your application in, I'm going to give you the lesson today. I'm going to give you the lesson today. Y'all are very educated people, and I'm going to tell you, I agree with you. I'm going to tell you, I agree with you. But now let me tell you why. First, family, this is no shot. You know what I mean? This is no shot at any Muslim, who fasts during the month of Ramadan, whether dark olive or light pale or anything in between. This is not that type of show. But what I want y'all to know is that we have been given a prophet, and our prophet is unique as any other prophet, and as powerful as any other prophet, because this prophet that we know as Prophet Noble Ali is one with all other prophets. He's no different. He's no different. It's just that he has unfolded in this era of time the lessons to a higher plateau of unfoldment. And we're going to talk about it tonight. Without further ado, let's get to the first slide. So family, first, let's talk about Ramadan. Let's talk about Ramadan. Let's learn a little something, family. This is a learning joint tonight. The month of Ramadan, all right? In which the Quran, in which, the month of Ramadan is that which was revealed, the Quran. Let me turn it back. Let me get this right. Was revealed the Quran, right? I want y'all to pay attention. I want y'all to pay close attention. A guidance for the people and clear proofs of guidance and criterion. So whoever cites the new moon of the month, let him fast it. Listen to it. Let him fast it. And whoever is ill or on a journey, then an equal number of other days, Allah intends for you to ease and does not intend for you hardship, and wants for you to the complete period to glorify Allah for that to which my bad, I lost my place because I'm looking somewhere else. To complete the period and to glorify Allah for that to which has guided you, and perhaps you will be grateful. Now check this out. One of the first things that I want to teach y'all how to pick up on this stuff too. See, I don't want to just I just don't want to educate you from my perspective. I want to tell you how to pick up on this too. One of the first things you want to ask yourself when you're reading the Quran, you know what I mean? When you're reading the Quran, I want you to remember one thing. When you're reading the Quran, it's not like the Bible. That's the first thing you need to know. That's one of the first things that I messed up on. I went and read the Quran as if it was the Bible. And the way that we read the Bible, we say verse this, John this, and verse that, and John that, and then we go into and then we look for the story of Jesus. Or we look for the story of David. We look for the story of Moses. Basically, we go in looking for stories and scenarios, right? You understand? We go into the Bible and we look for the story of the Garden of Eden. We look for the story of Joseph. We look for the story of Moses. We look for stories, right? And so as we study the Bible, we take that type of mentality over to the Quran. No. This is why the Quran is so confusing to beginners. The first thing that you must understand about the Quran is that it was revealed in a course of 23 years. Many might say, huh? It was revealed in a length of 23 years. And this is the reason why. And this is the point. You know what I mean? And this is the point that's going to make the difference of understanding the Quran and letting somebody mislead you with hadith. This is the point. Over the length of that 23 years, the Quran was revealed in response to Muhammad's companions and the conditions that Muhammad was faced with. Every ayah in the Quran speaks to something that was happening during that time while Muhammad was on the ground. The trick to this is to understand the Quran, you must understand it from the perspective that although it was speaking to situations or complications that people were facing right then and there, it also has a universal overtone to it. Yet, before you can go into the universality of the ayat in the Quran, you first got to examine the historical content and why it was revealed. And so when we look at the Holy Quran of Mecca or Muhammad, when you look at when the Quran mentions Ramadan, you have to ask yourself, what is the history behind that ayat? What is the history behind the verse? Because if we don't know the history behind the verse, what'll happen is somebody will throw you a hadith and bam, you could take the verse out of context. One thing about the Moorish Science Temple of America, it taught me context, right? It taught me context. So if you don't know the history behind the verse, why it was revealed, somebody can easily misguide you. And that's the difference. And so what is the context of Surah 2, 183, 85 or 185? Let's read it real quick. Let me get to it and read it. I think it's right here. There you go, right here. So this is the only surah, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'm not a scholar. I just know what I know. So here it is right here. You see, the month of Ramadan in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for mankind, and clear proofs of guidance and the criteria, or of right and wrong. And whosoever of you is present, let him fast the month. And whosoever of you is sick or on a journey, let him fast the same number of days. Allah desires you ease. He desires not hardship for you. And he desires that you should complete the period, that which ye should magnify Allah for having guided you. And that peradventure ye may be thankful. Right? So now, when we look at this ayat, what was happening at this time? Well, in fact, at this time, you will see that Muhammad and the companions were actually traveling, right? The Muhammad and the companions was actually traveling. And when the Muhammad and the companions was traveling, and plus it was a war going on because they was coming from Medina. They was traveling back and forth from Medina and Mecca. So I could be a little off, but they were traveling, if I'm not mistaken, from Medina to Mecca or Mecca to Medina. And so when they were traveling, the people, the companions, were getting weak. And then not only were they getting weak, those was that was fighting in the cause of Allah, they were also getting weak. And so this ayat was revealed during the month of Ramadan, no different about during the month of February. This ayat was revealed to Muhammad so people would not go to the extreme and kill themselves in fasting. Now, let's be clear. At this time, there was no 30-day cycle of fasting. Now, I'm not going to give you all my things because somebody want to challenge me, and I would love for them to come on the Moorish World TV platform and challenge me. Muslim, it don't matter, Muslim or Muslim. At this time, there were no 30-day cycle of fasting. At this time, Prophet Muhammad was fasting 3 days a month. 3 days a month. This is a historical fact. And so 3 days of this fasting and traveling, and the war was going on, this ayat was revealed. What people don't know is that the 30-day cycle of fasting was voted in by jurists because of the revelation of the ayat in the month of Ramadan. All right? Again, I'm just putting this out there. But my point is, it's not to bash or try to demonize fasting. That's not my point. I'm just giving you true history that you may not be used to. And I want to teach you how to read the books of Allah and read the books of all information. Now, I'm going to say it again. Muhammad fast 3 days out of the month. There was no 30-day cycle of fasting until it was voted in by the jurists, the same jurists that determines what hadith is right and what hadith is not at that time. So let's be clear. When somebody try, when somebody try to imply, when somebody try to imply that Moorish Americans are out of order because, that Moorish Americans are out of order because they do not subscribe to fasting during the month of Ramadan. When people try to imply that you are in error, then you come to your brother and you get the research and you show that the 30-day cycle of fasting did not happen during Muhammad's lifetime. So if Muhammad is the best of examples, that's what they say. And I actually agree. Where did the 30-day cycle come from? And how did that ayat get interpreted to mean what we see all over the world? Quote from Emiliel. A quote from Emiliel. A quote from Emiliel. It's all right to go with the majority if the majority is right. But if the one is right, the one becomes the majority. The one becomes the majority. You know what I mean? Now, let's go. Let's go to the next slide because I'm about to get y'all right. First of all, what we have to understand as Moorish Americans, and this is for Moorish Americans exclusive and those who understand universal principle. And understanding the Quran, and understanding Moorish science, and understanding any uplifting or infinite wisdom, the first thing that you must apply is universal principle. The Moorish Science Temple of America teaches universal principle. What exactly is universal principle? Universal, of affecting or done by all people or things in the world or in a particular group, applicable to all cases, right? You feel me? Of affecting or done by all people or things in the world in a particular group, applicable to all cases. This is universal. In other words, whether you got broken legs, you can still make salat, prayer. Whether you have one arm, you can still make prayer. Universal means that anybody and everybody can do it everywhere, regardless of what they know of by name. They must do it by principle. The first order of importance. The first order of importance. The main thing. So what is the first order of importance when it comes to fasting? Is it the month of Ramadan? Again, the month was determined by someone else. So universal principle is very simple. Universal principle means that everyone can do it, and it's of first importance. Everyone can do it. Whether you never heard of Muhammad and you in the jungles of South America, you are able to participate in the fullest form, unabridged. You follow me? That's universal principle. You see what I'm saying? That's universal principle. Now, the word Ramadan originally meant the 9th month of the Muslim lunar calendar, also known as Hijra, the starting point of this calendar. That's to say the founding date of the Muslim era marks the immigration of Hijra of the Prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Medina on September 13, 1962. Ramadan originally meant the 9th month. All right, let's stop. We look at that universal principle again. Universal principle, right? That it's something that never changed. Prophet Noble Ali makes a statement, truth is that which never changes nor pass away. Which means if it happened yesterday, it happened today. It never changes. If it happened yesterday, it happened today. It never changes. So it says that, let me block this out real quick. So it says that pull it back up real quick. So it says that Ramadan originally meant the 9th month. Now let's look at universal truth. Let's look at universal truth. If it originally meant 9th month and it's no longer the 9th month, that means that somebody has changed and now you're changing when they changed. And I'm gonna tell you why it's not the 9th month no more. It's still the 9th month, but it changes different time of the year. You see? So when they change, you change. When you no longer subscribe to universal truth, you actually are putting yourself back into mental slavery. You follow me? So, and we're going to go into that in a minute. Now, let me get this back up for y'all. We're going to get to the meat in a minute. I'm telling you, y'all going to want to see this. We're going to get to the meat in a minute. I just want to set this up real quick because there was a lot of dissenting thoughts on this. So now, let's ask ourselves a few questions. Let's ask ourselves a few questions. Verse 183 of the 2nd chapter of the Holy Book reads, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, that they may attain taqwa. Basically, that's the unfolding of a law. The understanding of a law, if you will. Now, or closeness to a law. But listen to this. This fasting that is being spoken of here is just one of the 5 pillars. It's not indicative of the 30-day fast or 28-day fast or Ramadan fast. It's just fasting. Fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed for those before you. Fasting is good. It's a pillar of Islam. But those who want to mislead you would say that Ramadan is a pillar of Islam, when of course, exactly, consciousness of Allah, when of course Ramadan is actually just a month. So ask yourself a question. If people are fasting and they are Muslims who have traveled out of space, how do you predetermine the daylight and the night? Well, I looked it up. It says, believe it or not, at least one person had fast in space, and Muslim scholars has addressed the issue. In 1985, Saudi Sultan Ibn Salman joined the Space Shuttle Discovery during a mission in Ramadan. The prince witnessed the birth of a new moon from space, and based on the ruling by religious leaders, here we go, we follow religious leaders. That's what we do. We don't follow the Quran no more. We follow religious leaders. Based on the ruling by religious leader, would fast according to the last location on earth, which in his case was U.S. state of Florida. That's not a universal principle. Universal principle cannot be adjusted to your liking. So fasting as a universal principle must apply regardless. It cannot adjust and shift according to your liking, because Allah, God, rules don't change nor pass away. Man makes adjustment according to what he wants to do. Fasting is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, alongside the belief in God and accepting the Prophet Muhammad as his messenger. The 5 daily prayers, the Hajj, pilgrimage, and alms. But now I just pulled this up just to show people something. Even when you look at the 5 daily prayers that they try to teach, it doesn't say that is not the pillars. Prayer is a pillar. Fasting is a pillar. Belief in Allah. Accepting Prophet Muhammad as his message. Pilgrimage or Hajj. And almsgiving. You see, but to mislead people, they would say that the 5 daily prayers is one of the 5 pillars. Not so. Not so. Not so. Prayer is. So, this is something that applies to many Arabic speakers, especially in North Africa, where the word implicit meaning is to fast. Anastology in North Africa, fasting for Lent, is still sometimes said to mean fasting during Ramadan. In North Africa, they interchange fasting for Lent and Ramadan as the same thing. So we know we're not talking about a universal principle as it talks to fast. But now, here we go. The reason why fasting during the month of Ramadan is not a universal principle, because it changes too much. And I'm not talking about the cycle changes from one time period to another, from one time period to another. But let's look at the original. Originally, this month fell in the summer, because the lunar calendar included interim periods. This is why, I got you, brother, prayer and salat. This is why the month of Ramadan is, in some translation, means to burn. Not because of salat, not because of fasting, but because originally it was one of the hottest months on the calendar. Originally, because the lunar calendar include interim periods. In other words, the time did not keep on shifting so as to make it fix in the rotation of the solar calendar. But today, the Hijra calendar follows the lunar cycles and gets earlier every year by 10 days or 11 days. As a result, Ramadan in 1438 is due to begin on the 25th and 26th of May, and this article was 2017. You follow what I'm saying? Now, a universal principle do not change, for truth do not change or pass away. These are the teachings of our holy and illustrious Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Truth must remain stern. Truth must remain stern. The moment that it changes, man has put his hand in it. And I'm telling you that Ramadan is no different. Fasting is no different. What if you live somewhere where the sun never sets? Here we go again. A universal principle does not exist in a shift. You see? And so, though it was not much of an issue in the early days of Islam, why? Because they all lived in one area. And in recent years, Muslim communities near the Arctic circles have been growing. For these communities, the sun either never set for the summer or set and rises so quickly that the window where you can eat is brief. In such cases, here we go again, adjustments. The most Islamic scholars believe that Muslims should disregard local conditions after they made up the rules. That they should regard local conditions and fast according to the condition of the neighboring country, whether fasts are manageable. Now you hear this? This is why the Moorish Science Temple of America subscribe to universal principles, not the custom and the mere ideas of man. You can fast all you want. I'm not trying to imply anybody to stop fasting. That's not what I'm doing. But as a Moorish American and as one who has the responsibility to teaching the doctrine as taught by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, I must point out these things. And I must show you, and then I must show you a little more as it relates to Ramadan fasting. I'm not implying don't join the Arabs or don't join communities in fasting. So please don't take it that way, because that's not what I'm implying. What I am saying, though, that once something can be changed and manipulated into, and I don't mean manipulated in a bad sense, but once something can be changed and adjusted to suit what you want it to be at your corner of the earth, it's no longer universal. And it's no longer universal mean it's no longer pure and from Allah. Though it can be a window to get to Allah, for fasting is still prescribed and you are obligated to fast. And you are obligated to fast. But for someone to put you in a 30-day, 28-day window, for someone to put you in a 30, 28-day window with another nation of people, which they can't even qualify scholarly, why? And it keeps shifting, that becomes manipulation. Not only does it become manipulation, it becomes mental slavery. All right? Now, in some translation, it reads, the month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance of mankind, and clear proof of guidance, and the criterion of right and wrong. And whosoever you is present, let him fast the month. And again, I will tell you, when this was revealed, Muhammad was only fasting 3 times a day. And he was speaking to the companions that were with him. He was speaking through the companions that was with him. And this ayat was read during, was revealed during the month of Ramadan. That's why I said the month of Ramadan is that which the Quran is revealed, a guidance for mankind, and clear proofs of guidance in the criteria of right and wrong. And whosoever of you is present, let him fast the month. Now, they want to interpret that to mean that fast the month is the whole month, when it can't be so, when it's proof that Muhammad did not fast a 28 or 30-day cycle. He only fasts 3 days a month, every month. And whosoever you is sick. I mean, let's go to the next one. Okay, now, the ruling to observe fasting during Ramadan was sent down 18 months. Was sent down 18 months after Hijriah, during the month of Shaban in the second year of Hijriah in 624. Now, we're going to let that hang right there. We're going to let that hang right there. You need to ask yourself who passed down this ruling. And we're going to let that hang right there, as my sister Grand Sheik like to point out. Who passed down this ruling? You see? Bro, Sadiq L, I just showed the proof. Matter of fact, I'm going to show more proof. I got more proof coming up, brother. He fasted 3 days during the month of Ramadan. Anyway, I'm not going to get caught up in the back and forth. You know what I mean? So it says, now here we go with another principle that does not fall for universal thought. The Sunni, and Shiite. But now watch this, family. Both the Sunni and Shiite Muslim fast during Ramadan, but there are some minor differences. For instance, Sunni break their daily fast at sunset, when the sun is no longer visible on the horizon, but there is still light in the sky. Whereas Shia wait until the redness of the setting of the sun has completely vanished and the sky is totally dark. Who do you follow, Sunni or Shia? See, which one do you follow? Which one do you follow? Now, after all that I said, now we got two traditions. Shia also celebrate an additional holiday within the month of Ramadan that Sunnis do not. For 3 days, the 19th, 20th, and 21st day of Ramadan, Shia commemorate the martyrdom of Ali ibn Abi Talib. You see, the cousin and son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad, who was both Reverend 4th Caliph of Sunni Islam and the first legitimate Imam of the Shia of Islam. So the question is asked, who are you following? Are you following the Shiite tradition, or are you following the Sunni tradition, or are you a Moorish American? Who are you following? When do you break your fast? What criteria do you follow? Huh? See, these are the questions that scholars need to be asked. How do we legitimize a universal principle when there's so much missing? You see, there's so much missing. And so most people don't even know what tradition they're following. Sunni or Shiite, pick one. I should have my bomb ready now. Pick one. It goes on to say, Ali was assassinated in the fierce civil war that erupted following the death of Muhammad over who would lead the Muslim community in his stead. On the 19th day of the month of Ramadan, while Ali was worshiping in the mosque in Kufa, Iraq, an assassin from the group of rebels who opposed his leadership fatally struck him and poisoned him. Poisoned him with a sword, with a poisoned sword. Ali died 2 days later. Ali is a hugely important figure in Shia Islam. His tomb is nearby in Najaf, Iraq. is the third holiest site in Shia Islam, and Muslims of Shia make a pilgrimage there every year. Although Sunni revere Ali as one of the four rightly guided caliphs who ruled after Muhammad's death, they do not commemorate his death or make a pilgrimage to his tomb. So the question I ask again, who are you following? I mean, who are you following? You see, that's right. Brothers say folks believe in fairy tales. You're absolutely right. I'm trying to break that up tonight. And there's the tomb if you want to go and visit it. You know what I'm saying? There's the tomb if you want to go visit it. You follow me? I already read that, brother. You came in late. Surah 2, 183. I already read that. And I talked about the history behind that. Understand the history why that ayat was revealed. Again, you had a chance to come on here tonight, but I'm gonna finish this presentation. Right? Now, let me explain this to you. The month of Ramadan in which was revealed the Quran, this is another translation, a guidance for mankind with clear proof for guidance and criteria between right and wrong. So whoever of you cites the month of Ramadan, they would say, he must observe Swam that month. Now, people want to interpret that to mean that means a 28-day cycle. Again, I got the receipts that all scholars agree that Muhammad fasts 3 times, not a 28-day cycle, during the month of Ramadan when this was revealed. And anybody want to come on to challenge me, they're welcome to challenge me, and I just pull the file. I mean, I'll pull the file. And so what this is speaking to, he must observe, fast, swam. And whoever is ill on the journey, again, the reason that was revealed, because the day that this ayat was revealed, they were traveling from Medina. They were traveling. And so that's why this was revealed. It's because there is no compulsion in Islam, and these people was becoming compulsive. And so Allah revealed this to the prophet to let them know whoever is ill or on a journey, some number of days of which they did not observe, psalm, fast, must be made up in other ways, from other days. Allah intends for you to ease and does not want you to make things difficult for you. You right? Right? And so that's very important to understand. Islam, brother Ben X, I didn't catch it yet, brother. I've been busy, brother. I got you, brother. I'm working. You see, I'm working, Ben X. I'm trying to get like you, brother Ben X. I'm working. Let me work. Assalamu alaikum, sir. That's my brother Ben X in the building. You know what I mean? So now, let's go to the next. Now, this is what we need to understand, right? This is what we need to understand. The purpose of this is not to knock an Arab. It's not to knock you for wanting to participate in the fast during the month of Ramadan. But do not try to imply that it's obligatory to Moorish Americans, because that's wrong. Yeah, we're going to get some call-ins real quick, but let me get to the meat of this. Whether a person should or should not fast while on a journey is left to the individual discretion. We find that among the companions who accompanied the prophet on the journeys, some fasted where others did not. None objected to the conduct of another. The prophet himself did not always fast when traveling. This is why I'm telling you that fasting, during the month of Ramadan is not a universal principle. Fasting during the month of Ramadan is a Johnny-come-lately custom. On a journey, a person who is so overwhelmed, again, the reason why they always speak to this journey is because Allah was bringing the answer to those who would be compelled to fast and almost kill themselves in the name of serving Allah. Had nothing to do with the month of Ramadan. I mean, Okay, we're going to get in that in a minute. Yes, sir. The prophet said we have the Holy Quran as the real word of Allah. Yeah, if you stay tuned, I'm getting to that part too. I'm going to cover it all tonight. I got about 30, 40 more minutes. I got about 30, 44 minutes, and I'm going to get that tonight, Brother Sadiq L. Just stay tuned. Now, it goes on to say, on one journey, a person was so overwhelmed by hunger that he collapsed, right? The prophet disapproved when he learned that the man had been fasting. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to know the universal principle from a custom. Because the universal principle do not change. And the universal principle of fasting is to fast, whether with or without a group. Whether with or without a group. During the wars, the prophet used to prevent people from fasting so that they would not lack energy. Y'all hear this? For the fight. It has been reported by Umar that 2 military expeditions took place in the month of Ramadan. Right? The first was the Battle of Badr, and the second, the conquest of Mecca. On both occasions, the companion abstained from fasting, and according to Ibn Umar, on the occasion of the conquest of Mecca, the prophet proclaimed that people should not fast since it was a day of fighting. I'm trying to teach you the difference between universal principle and custom. Fasting during the month of Ramadan is a custom. And if you've seen the early part of this presentation, you will know that the criteria of fasting between them 28 or 30-day cycle happened after Prophet Muhammad. It goes on to say, in other tradition, the prophet is reported to have said that people should not fast when they have drawn close to an enemy, since abstination from fasting will lead to greater strength, right? And then I got all the things right there. Now listen. I'm not finished yet, all right? I'm not finished yet. Jurists agree that one does not have to fast on the day commencing a journey. One may eat either. You see who pointing out when you can and can't do something? It's not the Quran, the jurists. One may either eat at the point of departure or after the actual journey have been commenced. Y'all see? Either course is sanctioned by the practice of companions. Jurists, however, are not agreed to as whether or not residents of the city under attack may abstain from fast. You see who makes the decision? Though they are not actually traveling. Ibn Taymiyyah favors the permissibility of abstination from fast and supports its view with a very forceful arguments. Now, do you understand who is controlling this train as it goes down the track? It's not the Quran. It's not the Holy Quran of Muhammad. It's the jurists. And people are subscribing to it. Now, one of the last points that I want to make to this, and then I'm going to get into the science of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Surah, as the brother said, Sadiq L, Surah 2:183. Believers, fasting is enjoined upon you as it was enjoined upon those before you, that you may become God-fearing. This ayat is not indicative of a 30-day cycle fast. This ayat is indicative of the principle of fasting. Regardless of when you fast, you must fast in order to become close or God-fearing. You follow me? Brother said, what are you reading, my brother? Brother, I'm just reading surahs right now. I'm just reading surahs and commentaries, and all of the commentaries is from the same hadith that they use. I don't subscribe to hadith, but I'm actually just reading from them in order to make this plain. And like I said, I am not knocking. I am not knocking anybody who subscribe to this, but don't you try to compel a Moorish American Muslim to try to subscribe to something that you don't even know what you're subscribing to. That's all I'm saying. I mean, so it says, like most other injunctions of Islam, those relating to fasting were revealed gradually. Do anybody know what an injunction is? An injunction is things that may have to be adjusted, changed, or looked into, but basically changed. When there is an injunction in something, there cannot be a universal principle, because you can't injunction universal truth. See what I'm saying? You can't put a junction into the universal truth that comes from Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet. You can't do that. You see, you can't do that because an injunction makes adjustments. But it said, like most other injunctions, those relating to fasting were revealed gradually. Who revealed these injunctions? In the beginning, Prophet Muhammad, in the beginning, I want to blow this up for you right quick. In the beginning, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had instructed Muslims to fast 3 days in every month. So during the month of Ramadan, I already read that too. I already read Surah 185. You're going to have to rewind because you're going too slow for me. I already went into Surah 185. Like most other injunctions, whenever there is an injunction, that means there is not a universal truth there. That means it's not a universal truth, which means you're making adjustments. In the word of Allah, there is no room for adjustment. Truth is art and art is Allah. We have the highest degree of understanding from the teachers of Prophet Noble Ali. And as I go toward, you can go ahead and do what you want. I'm not telling you not to fast during the month of Ramadan. I feel as though if you do fast, you may become a better person. But what I'm saying is a Moorish American is not obligated to your criteria where you don't even know where it comes from. And you think that it's coming from the Quran, when it's fact, it really isn't. It's an interpretation gone crazy. It's an interpretation gone crazy. But anyway, when the injunction, it says, in the beginning, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had instructed the Muslim to fast 3 days every month. 3 days every month, though it was not obligatory. When the injunction in the present verse was later revealed in 2:8h, a degree of relaxation was introduced. Y'all hear this? A degree of relaxation was introduced. It was stipulated that those who did not fast, despite their capacity to endure it, were obliged to feed one person. There we go. We're making adjustments again. Universal truth you cannot adjust. Truth is, was, and evermore to be. There is no adjustments in practicing universal truth. I mean, there is no adjustments. You cannot make adjustments for universal truth. I don't care if everybody on the face of the earth are moving in one direction. The moment that they made adjustments, the truth is no longer universal. You follow me? So it says, God proclaimed to Muhammad that fasting for his sake was not a new innovation in monotheism, but rather an obligation practiced by those truly devoted to the oneness of God. According to the Quran, fasting also obligatory for prior nations. Fasting is obligatory to you, family. So I'm not telling you not to fast. I'm telling you that the institutionalized fasting during the month of Ramadan came after Prophet Muhammad in the way that we see it today. I mean, it goes, say, and is a way to obtain taqwa, the fear of Allah, fear of God. The pagans of Mecca also fasted. but only on 10th day of Muharram to expiate sins and avoid droughts. You see? So again, family, when you understand how to usher in a prophet, many of the things that the people were doing, the prophet purified those things, right? The prophet purified those things. I mean, and so when you look at fasting, the pagans of Mecca was also fasting, and so that had to be instituted in their way of life as they move forward towards unfoldment. The pagans of Mecca, they also was bowing to 100 statues or 100 relics or thousands of idols. And so prostration was instituted, for you could not take that away from the people who already was doing it. So the universality of Prophet Muhammad, he came consistent. He came consistent with the understanding that the people had, and he raised them from that. And there is benefits in fasting. But what I'm telling you, I'm not going to let you put a Moorish American in slavery, because we follow the last prophet in these days, Prophet Noble Ali. It is believed, oh, we already went to that. All right. We already went to that. But now, y'all already get to the meat of it. Let's get to the meat of it. I want y'all to observe this. I want y'all to observe this here. Right. This is what I want y'all to observe. I want y'all to observe this. And I'm going to let this hang in the air. The ruling to observe fasting during Ramadan was sent down 18 months after Hajj, during the month of Shaban, in the second year of Hajj in 624. The question is, who instituted this ruling? Who instituted this ruling? That's right, Lord Merkel. We're about to get to the meat of it. You're going to break your fast in a minute. So I'm going to leave that hanging in the air. That's a little good fact for you. Now, y'all ready to get to the meat of it? This is what the Moorish Americans like to run on. This is what the Moorish Americans like to argue their point. And now we're about to bust it up. Now we're about to bust it up. Let's bust it up. Y'all ready to bust it up? Let's bust it up. Moorish Science, Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali, Maley Hill, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, Foreman Bay. Now let's bust it up. I said, Sadiq L, you have to find out who ruled it down, brother. I know he passed 632. I left that in the air so you can go do research. Stop defending a lie. Stop defending a lie. I left it in the air, brother. I got the answer. You don't. You don't have the answer. I do. Now here we go. Brother, you can, let me tell Sadiq L real quick. Let me stop for a minute. Let's take a pause for the car. Brother Sadiq L, you are welcome to demonstrate Ramadan all you want. That's not the purpose of this, brother. All right? That's not the purpose of this. And you can teach those under your leadership to do Ramadan or fast during the month of Ramadan all you want. But I'm going to teach what the prophet taught. I mean, I'm going to teach what the prophet taught. All right? Now, brother, you had the ability to come on here. I'm going to teach what the prophet taught. And that's what's up next. I know you're emotional. That's how the truth gets you. The truth is supposed to make you emotional. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. I mean, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. I mean, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. The truth ain't supposed to feel good. The truth only feels good when you live in the truth. But when you live in a lie, truth don't feel good. I understand. It's okay. I still love you, brother. But now let's get into it. Now let's get into the real meat of what we've been discussing. The Moorish Science Temple of America, deriving its power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. All right? Deriving its authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. Right? This is what people like to use. But do people pay attention? Deriving its authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. To do what? To do what? To propagate the faith and extend the learning of the great prophet of Ali. Do you know what the truth and learning of the great prophet Ali is? Do you know what the truth and the learning of the great prophet Ali is? We get our power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad to propagate the faith and extend the learning of the truth and the great prophet Ali. Do you know what that truth is? I'm giving it to you now. Huh? Do you know what that truth is? I'm about to give it to you now. First of all, the great Quran of Muhammad. We need to know it's not a book. Oh, we're going to get into some esoteric, and I don't care if you don't like it. The great Quran of Muhammad is not a book. The great Quran of Muhammad is the same book that's not a book that the angel Gabriel said to read or recite. Ikra, Ikra. The same thing. The same thing that the angel Gabriel was telling him to read or recite, depending on your translation, is the same great Quran of Muhammad. It's the same Quran of Muhammad. It's not a tangible thing. For the Quran that we read today was put together by men who claim that their memory serves them well after 23 years and 70 people. During the 23 years of Muhammad's time as a prophet, the verses of the Quran was memorized and they were revealed. And about 42 scribes wrote the verses on different materials such as paper, cloth, bone fragments, and leather. In ancient times, literacy was a skill that few people had, and Muhammad himself didn't know how to read or write. So they say, during the time of Caliph Abu Bakr, when 70 people who knew the Quran by heart were killed in the battle of Yamama, Umar ibn al-Khattab became concerned and appealed to Abu Bakr in order to compile the Quran. And so when somebody say that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali compilation of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America is a plagiarization, let me tell you something. This is a compilation too. And this is a compilation of verses as handed down to Prophet Muhammad. And some of the same stories that you read in the Quran, the same stories that you read in the Quran are similar to the ones in the Bible, because what the prophet was reading from is a universal truth and a universal principle. Now, Abu Bakr formed the delegation under the leadership of Zayd ibn Thabit, one of the leading scribes. You understand? The Quran was put together after Prophet Muhammad. And so the great Quran of Muhammad, the great Quran of Muhammad is the same great book that the angel Gabriel told Prophet Muhammad to read from. But we don't want to evolve. We want to stay stuck slaves. We don't want to think for ourselves. And so the Prophet Noble Drew Ali says in chapter 11 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, from Allah's own record book we read. That is the same book that we talking about. From Allah's own record book we read, the triune Allah breathed forth and stood 7 spirits before his face. The Hebrews called these 7 spirits Elohim. The 7 spirits are the 7 spirits that created everything was, is, and evermore to be. That's why it says in the Holy Quran of Mecca, we created man. We created man. That is the we in your Holy Quran of Mecca. The Elohim. That's why it says we. You see? That's why it says we. From Allah's own record book. What book is this? What book is this? So when people say we get our power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad, you better think twice. You better think deeper. Stop thinking like a slave. For the last prophet in these days is the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And the last prophet is more potent than the one before him. The last prophet is more potent than the one before him. You follow me? The last prophet is more potent than the one before him. Now let's get into Ramadan in 1927. Let's get into Ramadan in 1927. If the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the 30,000 Moors, I want you to look at my face now because we're coming to a conclusion now. Now, if you are so crazy to believe, that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali had 30,000 Moors around the country, that he controlled, you right, Sadiq, with that one. The prophet said he was Muhammad. You right with that one, brother, but that's a degree, brother. You need to join the noble temples so I can open the seals for you. But now the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and 30,000 followers, 30,000 people, right? 30,000 people. Now, come on, we're not crazy. Do we know what 30,000 people look like first and foremost before we get to the crescendo? Out of 30,000 people, not one of them mentioned Ramadan. Not one. We can't find it anywhere. But that's not my argument. But that's not my argument. But 30,000, 3,000 Muslims on the west side of Chicago alone. 3,000 Muslims on the west side of Chicago alone. And now I'm going to tell you. Now we're going to bring the evidence. Not one mentioned Ramadan or fasting. Not one. 30,000. Now listen. We got a highlight here. 26, 27, 28, 29. Right? 26, 27, 28, 29. You follow me? Not one mention. But now let's get to the meat of it. I think I got my point with that. Let's get to the meat of it. All right? Now, in 1927, during the month of Ramadan, March 17th, a temple was established. Where do I get this information from? Let's look at March 17th right down here. It was on a Thursday. You follow me? Matter of fact, in Charleston, West Virginia, a temple was established, right? March the 17th was a Thursday. That was on Ramadan in 1927. A temple was established. You know where I got this from? You know where I got this from? That's from an article of a Moorish guide. The establishment of Temple Number 2 in Charleston, West Virginia. You know what stands out to me? That they reported establishing this temple during the month of Ramadan, but in that same paper, there's nothing said about Ramadan. All right? They talking about establishing a temple during the most glorious occasion for Muslims of the East. They mentioned this in the paper. Oh, we about to turn up. We ain't gonna turn down yet. See, look at the calendar right here. You don't have to believe me. There you go. There you go. March 17th, right there. It was a Thursday, and it was 13 Ramadan, 345. Nothing mentioned in that paper about Ramadan. Man, this is the greatest holiday going on for Muslims in the East, right? We ain't finished. I know y'all want to say something. I know the naysayers want to say something. You see what I'm saying? I know you do. In January the 11th, 1928, Temple Number 6 was established. Right? I ain't finished yet. I'm going to show y'all the papers. I ain't finished yet. 1928, January 11th. This was right before Ramadan in 1928. Here we go again. Here we go again. Nowhere can we find in any paper of the Moorish Guide that Moorish Americans talking about Ramadan. Here we go again. Matter of fact, in this year, in 1928, January 16th, 1928, let's look at January 16, 1928. This was right before Ramadan started. The Prophet was on his way to the Pan American Conference. Here we go. The Prophet was on his way to the Pan American Conference. This was right before Ramadan. In the paper, nobody mentions Ramadan, but they mention him going to the Pan American Conference. I ain't done yet. I ain't done yet. I ain't done yet. I ain't done yet. Nothing mentioned. I mean, nothing is mentioned. Nothing is mentioned. I ain't finished yet. This is the paper from 1928, right? During that time. But now this is the back page, but I'll show you the date in a minute. The reason why we know it's the same paper, because I have the article of the drawing of the paper. And this paper here is March 1st, 1929. Right here. But let's see what the Prophet was talking about. Right? Let's see what the Prophet was talking about. Matter of fact, I think this one is 29. Now, listen to me, family. Listen close. Listen close. Here we go. March. Let me get to 29 real quick. March 1929 is a Ramadan cycle, right? But look at this paper right here. You know what they was talking about during the Ramadan cycle? Look right here. The first Moorish National Tag Day. They was talking about Tag Day on March 17th, 1929. That was in proximity of Ramadan. Again, this paper, nothing. Nothing. Y'all see that? This was in a Ramadan, right after a Ramadan cycle. I mean, Nothing. That's strange. That's not strange to you? Right here. Right here. Here we go again. This is January 15th, 1929 paper. Again, right before Ramadan. It's in the Ramadan cycle. Here you go. January 15, 1929. Here you go. That's right before the Ramadan cycle starts. You follow me? There is no. That's what I say, right before the Ramadan cycle starts. And in this paper, there's no preparation for Ramadan being talked about. None. None. That is not strange. They're talking about the Prophet's birthday. They're talking about the Prophet blessing the Muslims. In this paper here, I mean, they're not talking about none of that. Brother, your dates are off again, Brother Sadiq. The dates are off again. Now, this is the one that's really going to get you. On this day here. On this day here, January 14th, 1929, the Prophet was going to the inauguration of this European. This was right before Ramadan started in 1929. They put that in the paper. They put that in the paper, but they don't put Ramadan in the paper. Here it is right here. Outstanding among the members of Chicago organization, which will have representation inauguration of Governor Lewis B. Anderson. They put that in the paper right before Ramadan hit. But they don't put Ramadan in the paper. Brother, this is just too much. This is just too much. You can't fight this. If the Prophet would have taught Ramadan, if the Prophet would have taught and subscribed and told Moors to observe Ramadan, we would see something. You got nothing. I'm not telling people not to observe Ramadan. That's not what I'm saying. So don't say that I'm saying that. What I'm telling you is that we have our Prophet. We have our customs. We have our tradition. And they're unique to Islamism. And if you want to observe Ramadan, by all means, observe it. But don't run around telling people that you are obligated just because you say or you practice the Muslim faith. Because that's not true. That's not true. Because that's not how Ramadan was instituted or fasting during the month was instituted. Ramadan and fasting is a great thing. Fasting the month of Ramadan is an amazing experience. But by all means, by all means, know for sure that this compulsion must stop. I mean, fasting is I'm going to say this to head our warning. Brother, if you've seen the early part of the show, you will see that fasting is a pillar of Islam, though fasting during the month of Ramadan is not predicated upon that pillar. That was made up after. It's a form of control. Fasting is prescribed. Fasting is obligatory. But fasting during the customary practices of a jurist instituting it is not what we do. So here we go again. On February 12, 1929, February 26, 1929, during Ramadan, in this same paper, they are promoting civics. Lewis B. Anderson. Again, there is no. How many papers do I got to show you? I'm showing you before, I'm showing you after, I'm showing you on the day, I'm showing you within the construct of Ramadan, and there is not one mention of Ramadan by people who try to impose this on Moorish Americans. Let me say this to Brother Sadiq. It is a Muslim custom, but it's not obligatory for Moorish Americans. For the Prophet did not bring that, I'm showing you. And I showed you the history with it. It's our custom. And I'm talking about our ancient custom. But the practices of doing it during a month cycle has been flipped, chopped, and screwed. Has been chipped, flipped, chopped, and screwed. And this is why the Prophet don't mention it, because he already know that they put their hand in the cookie jar. And you want to follow that dirty hand and eat that cookie. Well, by all means, go ahead and eat the cookie. But here we go, another paper. Here we go right here. March 1st, 29. And here go the paper, March 1st, 29. It was Ramadan on March 1st, 1929. There was a Ramadan. They talking about Moors greet the great prophet. Prophet makes a plea to a nation. It's the same paper. Never mention it. Never mention Ramadan. Never mention fasting during the month of Ramadan. Now, let me bring you on home. Let me bring you on home. This is February 1st. This is another paper. Here we go. Right before February 1st, the cycle began. Another paper. No preparation. No preparation. Brother, it's okay if you want fast. It's okay. I'm just saying that don't try to make it obligatory during the month of Ramadan, because that's not how the teachings go. But you can do what you want. So here we go. Here is the Prophet Noble Drew Ali in closing. Here is the Prophet Noble Drew Ali in closing, talking about the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali has spent many hours preparing the latest edition of the Holy Quran, which will be a masterpiece of religious literature. Listen to what the Prophet is doing. To Americanize the Oriental idea of Islam. The Prophet told you what he was doing. The Prophet told you what he's doing. To Americanize, brother say, why you guys shout? I get excited. Just turn the volume down a little bit. I get excited. Lily Lou, I apologize. I get excited. Turn the volume down a little bit. It says the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has spent many hours preparing the latest edition of the Quran, which will be a masterpiece of religious literature. What the Prophet trying to do? To Americanize the Oriental ideal of Islam. The Oriental idea of Islam. He could have said Arabic ideal. The Oriental idea of Islam. Anybody know about that? What you know about that? He couldn't say the Arabic ideal. Huh? He said to Americanize the Oriental ideal of Islam. It involves many changes that are more or less or negative, more or less negative to the main purpose of the Islamic religion, right? Involve many changes that are more or less negative to the main purpose of the Islamic religion. Listen to this. Listen. Such changes are carefully considered with the idea to avoid of changing the complexion of the original text. Listen to this. Listen to this. The philosophy of the ancient prophets is the main initiative in the compilation of the Quran. We're talking about the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. This is why we are so unique, family. No thoughts of propaganda into this work. Listen to what the prophets say. Speak to me, Prophet Noble Ali, as have been the case of many former religious works, such as the Bible and other books of creed. The sole purpose of the prophet is giving such a message to the world to save fallen humanity. Listen to what he says. When a compiler attempts to inject propaganda into work of this kind, there arises a need to cover the true text in order to prevent clash with the truth and ideas involved in such propaganda. This is why the prophet don't mention that stuff that y'all think you're supposed to be subscribing to, because propaganda has been introduced. Listen to what he said. Former works of this kind have either hindered or helped nations proportionately to the adherence to the truth as to the original purpose of keeping the ignorant in such a state. It is hard to resist the temptation to use this medium for gain. That's what's happening. That's why the world is moving like they're moving. Somebody has used the medium of God literature for gain. Check it. Hence, many of the former treaties on work of this kind have been the means to foster ideas of the unscrupulous. That's what we caught up in. The prophet is trying to get you up out of this, but no, you want to stay stuck in it. You want to stay stuck in it. Wherein their desire is to use religious influence for gain. Everybody looking like robots. Everybody looking like robots. And as my brother Amin Bey said, ain't really helping nobody. We could see if people were being helped and advancing, but there's more drug dealers on the corner. There's more shootings in every city. They have turned people into robots. It goes on to say, listen to what the prophet said. The many secrets known to the prophet that could be used for the salvation of the nation were either left out or, listen, colored to the extent that their meaning was made void. Such is not the case with this edition of the Quran. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. The many secrets known to the prophet that could be used for the salvation of the nation were either left out or colored to the extent that their meaning was made void. Such is not the case with this edition of the Quran. Is there another edition? Is there another edition? Let the prophet speak. All the secrets of the ages to man were put in this work. It's not some of the secrets, all the secrets. These secrets known only to the Magi are here revealed. The reading of the stars, the interpretation of marriage relations, the understanding of the span of life, and other such has been kept from the Occidental world are in this book boldly brought out. The Quran, Americanized as it will be, can be brought in a few weeks. It will be sent to all governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Last but not least, this is Moorish historical letter. And the prophet said, inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran, the lofty teachings of the teachings of the Quran, the lofty teachings of the Quran. Y'all need to pay attention to words that the prophet used. He is an English-speaking prophet for a reason. Inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran, we have it as the revealed word of God. The lofty. Do you know what lofty mean? Do you know what lofty mean? Let's look it up. I want to look it up and read it to you. I don't know what it means. Let's look it up. Let's look what lofty means. L-O-F-T-Y. Lofty. Lofty. Okay. of imposing heights, lofty, lofty. Did y'all hear that? Y'all hear that? Of imposing heights. Why y'all so earthbound? We raise our thoughts to infinite wisdom. As I rise, I give praise to Allah. You got to raise your thoughts to lofty heights. Listen to the words again. You ain't got to catch it, but I'm gonna try to give it to you. I'm gonna sling it. I'm gonna throw it to you one more time because I'm about to wrap up. Inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran. We're not talking about the basic teachings. We're not talking about the basic teachings of the Quran. We have it as the revealed word of God. We're not talking about the basic teachings. We shall foster its principle of its teachings among our members. I started off with talking about the universal principle. We shall foster its principles, not its customs. You can do some of the customs if that's what you wish to do, but the job of the Moorish Science Temple of America is to foster the principles. The true principle of fast, the true principle of prayer, the true principle of Hajj, the true principle of Muhammad being his prophet, the true principle of the oneness of Allah. I'm about to read the whole thing. I'm about to read a little bit more. We should foster the principle of its teaching among our members. This is our religious privilege as an American citizens under the laws of the greatest documents of all time, American Constitution. And brothers say, he said Mohammedan. Brother, I got it highlighted. Don't I see? The Mohammedan religion is the least appreciated. And for Sadiq El, probably the most misunderstood of the world great religions. This is especially true in our Western world. Probably the most misunderstood of the world's great religions. This is especially true in our Western world. Misunderstood. And this is especially true. In the article in the Moorish Guide, again, we, the Moorish Science Temple of America, like countless of American citizens, know that we must live together here in America in harmony, friendship, and goodwill. Whatever our race or creed may be, it is only pure from a religious standpoint, it seems at this time, that we differ from a large number of our fellow Americans. We believe and foster the Muslim religion. Now listen, we believe in the principles of its teaching insofar as it can be adopted into American life. And so far, it can be adopted into American life. That's what it says. And so far, it can be adopted into American life. Did you get that? Huh? And so far, it can be adopted into American life, brother. Huh? Did you get that? Did you get that? Come on, man. Did you get that? Good night. I don't know what I got in that speaker, but it's boom. So family, that's all I got for you. Again, let me explain something to you. I'm not implying not to participate in Ramadan. You follow me? I'm not implying to anybody not to participate in Ramadan. But make it a personal choice. Don't try to make it an organizational choice. Make it a personal choice so you can personalize the experience. So you can personalize the experience. It's not obligatory to Moorish Americans. It never has been and never will be. because that's not what the prophet put out. The prophet did not teach that. And I've showed over and over again that the prophet did not teach that. Now, but if you want to make it obligatory to yourself and to whoever follow you, that's fine with me. I have nothing to do with that. You see what I'm saying? I have nothing to do with that. That's what you want to do, fine. Listen, as the prophet said, there's no compulsion in Islam. I have to agree. The treasure of these understanding, the understanding of the treasures of Allah. And he pointed to each one with measure seem and good unto himself. So whatever you understand is good for you. It's good for you. Yes, sir. We are Mohammedans, bro, according to the prophet. I agree with you. But we should foster its principles among our members. The prophet don't only say that twice. He says it 3 times in 3 different places. And we get our power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad to propagate the faith and extend the learning. Feel me? I read this book 7 times, 10 times, probably more than that. It says 7 first, but probably about 10 times, probably more than that. And I explained how to read the Quran in the beginning of this segment. But we have a prophet. Our prophet is the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and our book is the lofty book that I just expressed to you. If you want to be a Sunni or Shiite Muslim, that's fine with me. I'm a Moorish American Muslim, and I follow the prophet to a destiny that's not uncertain nor unknown. I gave enough proof. I gave enough facts. Now the choice is yours. Do whatever you want to do. Brothers in my temple are fasting. But praise be to Allah, because guess what? I don't teach not to fast during the month of Ramadan. That ain't what I teach. I don't teach that. And anybody who think that is crazy. What I do teach is what the prophet prescribed to Moorish Americans and the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. With that being said, family, I'm up out of here. Hope y'all enjoy the show, enjoy the presentation. Also, anybody wish to support, you can always cash app. Hello, do whatever you want to do. Thumbs up, keep it real, make a comment. Anything disrespectful, I will be deleting the comments. You know, it is what it is. Peace and love, family. I appreciate y'all, and I see y'all tomorrow night. As I talk about tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about European invasion of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Salute, Angel in Training, my brother. I'm calling you tomorrow, and we're gonna talk about it, brother. I'm trying to get you right. I'm trying to get you right, Lord Merc. I'm gonna call you tomorrow morning, brother. Peace and love. Peace and love, everybody. Appreciate y'all. Hope y'all learned something tonight. Let's get busy. Time for us to be the guiders of the nation. The keys of civilization was and is in the hands of us. Let's use them keys, open these doors, and wake our people up and usher in the next generation to guide the nation. After that, Islam,
help me out. Meet me halfway. Come on. I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. Let me be your friend. Peace and love. I said you ain't never met a more like me, and you ain't never ever gonna meet one again. Now let me be your friend. Peace and love.
Our prophet teaches us that the rulers and the rich were using the 10 Commandments to oppress people. And you might say, well, how did you come up with that?
Peace and love. You let me be your friend. Peace and love. Hey, yo, I used to be a thug until I met the prophet. Now I'm all about love, truth, peace, and freedom till I return to Allah.